Welcome to episode 6 of Nonlinear Storybits. In many wuxia novels or historical period dramas, you might hear the phrase 一人做事,一人当. Basically, I am the one who did this thing, therefore, I should be the only one that takes up the consequences. Although I have to say, sometimes in history, even that is a luxury. In Chinese history, there is a punishment called 灭九族 or 诛九族, 灭 and 诛both meaning exterminate or execute. So this punishment is wiping out or exterminating all 9 九族, or families or generations of a family, or a 9 familial extermination or execution, usually employed when someone is found guilty of treason. Because of the culture of strong familial ties and strong loyalty and filial piety, the argument is that if one person chooses to rebel or revolt against the emperor, then due to that loyalty and piety and family ties, then the entire clan would also be supporting that person's revolt and rebellion. So therefore, guilt by association, there needs to be some type of collective punishment to punish everybody who is involved. So then the question we should ask is, what are those 9 generations? According to 大明律, or the Great Ming 大明 law code 律, those 9 generations are your generation, your father's generation, your grandfather's generation, your great-grandfather's generation, and your great-great-grandfather's generation, counting upwards, and then your son's generation, your grandson's generation, your great-grandson's generation, and your great-great-grandson's generation, counting down. But this was just the vertical relationships. There were also horizontal relationships, such as your brothers and also all of your cousins on your dad's side. And so just like that, hundreds, if not thousands of people were killed or punished all at once. There were a few exceptions though. For example, children under a certain age were sometimes spared, and sometimes women of the family had the option of being sold to slavery rather than face execution. With this in mind, let's take a look at the one and only 10 generation extermination of Fang Xiao. To understand Fang Xiaoru's story, let's take a quick look at the preceding Jingnan 之变. When Zhu Yuanzhang founded Ming dynasty Ming Chao in 1368, he also crowned his son Zhu Biao as the crown prince. However, the crown prince died pretty early on, so then that means Zhu Yuanzhang needed a new heir. But the question then was, who should it be? Although there were many other sons that Zhu Yuanzhang favored, eventually he was persuaded to crown his royal grandson, Zhu Yunwen, Zhu Biao's son, as the one next in line for the throne. This led to some dissatisfaction from Zhu Yunwen's uncles, though. In particular, Zhu Yunwen's fourth uncle, Zhu Di. At that time, Zhu Di was Prince of Yan, or Yan Wang, in Fieft, now near modern-day Beijing. He was an excellent general, stationed up there precisely because Zhu Yuanzhang, his father, recognized that ability and needed that ability too to protect the northern borders of Ming Chao against Mongol attack, since Zhu Yuanzhang just a few years ago repelled the Mongols out from the Chinese territory. To say when Zhu Biao was crowned as the crown prince, although Judy may have been a little bit miffed, he had to accept that result. He could accept that result because legally Zhu Biao was older than him, and it was accepted that birth order meant different birthrights. And Zhu Di had to acknowledge that since Zhu Biao was born earlier, he contributed equally, if not more than himself, to the Ming dynasty cause. However, Zhu Yunwen was another story. This was a teenage kid who was some 20 years younger than Zhu Di. When Zhu Yunwen became emperor, Ming Huidi, or Jianwen Di, Jianwen being the era name and Ming Huidi being his temple name, things turned even more sour as distrust and antagonism grew between uncle and nephew, Zhu Di, or Judy, and Jianwen Di. So this dissatisfaction, resentment, scorn, bitterness, and more eventually grew to the point that Judy led a revolt against his own nephew, Zhu Yunwen, in order to become the emperor himself. This civil war is called Jingnan 之变. Jing means to quell, Nan means some kind of disaster. So this was a campaign, a campaign to quell some kind of disaster. To give some legitimacy to his claim for revolt, Judy informed the imperial court that his revolt is for Qing Jun Ce. Qing means to clean or to clear. Jun means the ruler or the emperor. Ce means an act. So this was an act to help the emperor, Jin Wendi, clear away the vile and malicious and wicked people that were around him, which was basically a blatant lie because all of these vile and malicious wicked people were just basically people in Judy's point of view who were preventing him from becoming the emperor. Regardless of the reason, there was no turning back now. 3 years of civil war later, Judy was able to capture Nanjing, which was the capital of Ming dynasty at that time, and crown himself as the new emperor, Yongle Huangdi. Yongle was his era name, and Ming Chenzu was his temple name, so he's also known as Ming Chenzu. So then we might ask, what happened to Ming Huidi or Jin Wendi at this time? The day when Zhu Di captured Nanjing, Zhu Yunwen supposedly set the palace to fire, escaped through a secret tunnel, and mysteriously disappeared. And this has been one of those great mysteries from the Ming dynasty that hasn't actually been solved even now. And at that time, this mystery also haunted Zhu Di for the rest of his life. Although there are some historical records now that give us some clues on what actually happened to Ming Huidi. After Zhu Di became the new emperor, he had some situations he needed to figure out. Although in life you can never really please everybody, in Zhu Di's case, his situation was just slightly worse. Obviously, his generals and supporters who went through that Jingnan 之变 supported his claim as emperor, but at the same time, there were many officials and ministers who were still loyal to Zhu Yunwen and saw Zhu Di as an illegitimate emperor because he did not succeed through legal means. He was morally corrupt. I mean, he just led a revolt against his own nephew. And at that point, it was not even fully confirmed whether Zhu Yunwen was actually dead. What if he was still alive? Does that mean that these government officials and ministers would be serving and supporting this fake emperor while the real emperor was out in the wild somewhere? Zhu Di also knew deep down that his claim to the throne was slightly problematic. It was a pretty illegitimate process. So to kind of calm these rumors and gossip and the situation down, he decided to purge and kill all those who resisted against his rule. But there was one person he didn't want to kill. If anything, he could not kill. And that person was Fang Xiao. Fang Xiao was a very well-respected scholar and held great influence among the literati and other scholars and just really among people. So for Zhu Di, having Fang Xiaoru's support would mean that Zhu Di would get the support of many scholars and the approval of the formidable literati faction. So Zhu Di didn't want to kill him. He also really couldn't because since Fang Xiaoru had the support of all the educated and literati, if he was killed, then well, good luck to Zhu Di to finding any capable and talented people to help serve in his court and help govern his country. Because of this, he tried to summon Fang Xiaoru many times to win him over onto his side. But Fang Xiaoru flat out ignored Zhu Di. Finally, one time, and also the last time, Zhu Di ordered Fang Xiaoru to be brought to court whether he was willing or not. Zhu Di, at that point, was about to proceed with his process of coronation, and he needed an edict to be written. Since Fang Xiaoru was a great scholar and writer, Zhu Di wanted Fang Xiaoru to write it for him. Zhu Di, while he was a general up at Beijing, didn't spend that much time with the books. When Fang Xiaoru came to court and saw Zhu Di sitting on the emperor throne, He immediately started weeping uncontrollably. I mean, for Judy, this juxtaposition was probably kind of uncomfortable. On one hand, he was joyously about to proceed with his coronation, and on the other hand, here was Fang Xiao in his mourning garb and weeping away in the middle of the imperial court. But he had something to ask from Fang Xiao, so he bit his lip to contain his anger and tried to console Fang Xiao just so that he could get this edict written. He told Fang Xiao how, I was just trying to help Hui Di by removing the vile ministers through Qingjun. It was for his own good. I'm legitimate. Why are you crying? Fang Xiao countered, so where is Jian Wendi? If you were trying to remove the vile ministers and the evil people who were around Jian Wendi, and now that you've done it, where is Jian Wendi? Judy countered, well, he died in a fire. What can I say? Fang Xiao countered again. So why do we not crown Jian Wendi's son, who is the legitimate next in line person, heir for the throne? Judy replied, well, he's kind of young. Jian Wendi himself was only 23 years old or something. His son is an elementary school kid. How can you expect an elementary school kid to be able to fully run and govern a country? He can't. Fang Xiaoru countered, so what about Jian Wendi's brothers? Any one of them has a more legitimate claim to the throne than you, Judy. At this point, Judy was mad. He retorted back, this is a private family business affair, okay? You can say whatever you want, but here's the brush, draft that edict. Fang Xiaoru was silent for a moment. Then he took up the brush and with his magnificent calligraphy wrote 4 grand words. Yan Zei Cuan Wei. The Prince of Yan, a criminal, a felon, a lawbreaker, usurped the throne. When Judy saw this, he was livid. He lashed out at Fang Xiaoru. Do you not know that I can exterminate all 9 generations of your family? Fang Xiaoru countered. You can exterminate all 10 generations for all you want, and I will not recant what I just said. Judy said, okay, that's what you said. I'll make you regret what you just said today. And so Judy exterminated all 9 generations according to Da Ming Lü. And as for the 10th generation, all of Fang Xiaoru's students and friends were also purged and killed in the process. And so this is the story of Fang Xiaoru and the one and only 10 generation extermination in Chinese history.